So apparently there are a group of people dressed in snowman costumes that just walked into Panera, which all of a sudden has me questioning the decision that I'm making this morning. Today I'm starting a brand new book. It is going to be book 2 in my Shiffy PI mystery series. It's going to be the follow-up to Run No More, which came out this past summer in June. And a new book, so I thought, why not have a little bit of a new routine? So I'm actually doing a few different things with this book, and the thing that I'm doing this morning is something that I haven't done since before the pandemic, and that is I'm gonna go write inside of a building other than my house. All right, so I was in there for like 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours. I wrote about 2,000 words. Yes, I know I am not a fast writer, but it was nice. It was nice to get out of the house and write somewhere different. It felt good. I put my noise canceling headphones on and just kind of went at it. This was kind of an experiment in efficiency, I guess you could say. Going into 2022, I'm really trying to fine-tune my routine, see what works for me, see what doesn't, so I can be as efficient and maximize my productivity so I can write more books and get more products out. I used to write in coffee shops and in my car on lunch breaks a lot when I was still working my day job, but since transitioning to a full-time writer, and then of course the pandemic, and I couldn't go inside a lot of places, this is the first time I've written outside the house in quite some time. I don't know that this is something I'm going to do every day, obviously. Maybe I could mix my schedule up and do it 2 times a week. I don't know, but I do know it felt good and I was locked in. And when I'm in a place like this, all I can do is sit there and write. I don't have any other distractions, so I can really focus and get the job done. But aside from, changing up the location that I'm writing, there is another thing that I'm doing with this book that I don't think I've ever actually done to this level in any of my previous books. This is a brand new thing, but first, before I tell you about that, I have to go get some groceries at Costco. See, I'm what they call in the writing world a pantser type author, meaning I write kind of by the seat of my pants. I don't do any extensive outlining before I start writing the book, and I don't do a whole lot of plotting during the writing process. I do make notes, of course. I make notes of my characters. I do make notes of locations in the books. And I also keep a chapter by chapter synopsis as I'm going. That way I can make notes on individual chapters for things that maybe I want to go back and correct later, or, making notes of any type of continuity issues that I want to go back and fix after the first draft is done. But aside from that, I've never really done any extensive outlining. I usually will formulate the beginning of my book. I know what the main conflict is going to be, and usually, if not right away, a very short while into the book, I have kind of figured out where I want the book to end, or at least what direction I want it to end in, and I write myself toward that ending and that resolution. I don't always know how I'm going to get there, but I do know that if I keep plugging along, I will figure it out eventually, and I'll probably have a lot of fun along the way. But going back to what I was talking about earlier in this video about trying to figure out routines and ways to maximize my efficiency and my productivity, I have been reading some articles and some interviews with some other authors whose books I have read and have really enjoyed and are very successful. And one of the things that I'm seeing become a theme with a good amount of them is the fact that they do, to a certain degree, all do some form of outlining. And one of the things that they all seem to say in one way, shape, or form is that they find that they are able to write more words and to write books more quickly when they already know what they're going to be writing when they sit down at the keyboard. And while I know that people outline books, and I've read about people that outline books, of course, it's a very common thing, something about looking at it just from that kind of perspective, thinking to yourself, okay, when I sit down, I already know what I'm gonna write. I already know the gist of this chapter. I just have to fill in the details. I have to give you the meat and potatoes of the idea. That, for some reason, just really resonated with me all of a sudden, and I thought it would be a good idea to give it a try. Especially with the book that I just started today, it seemed like it would be a really good idea because this novel is part of a series that is more of a straight-up crime, mystery, thriller series than my Lance Brody series, which is more supernatural suspense. So in the crime thriller genre, I thought, okay, this is a really good opportunity to test out this idea of really working to lay out a roadmap of my chapters ahead of time and see if it does make the writing any quicker. So I spent some time this weekend and I basically made some bullet points and some rough outlines of what I felt was going to happen in this book for the first 6 chapters. And that is by far the furthest ahead that I have ever plotted for any novel. In my Lance series, it wasn't uncommon for me, especially as I was getting toward the end of the book and needed to start having everything tie together, to sit down and make some notes of maybe, the next 1-2 chapters ahead, or at least what was going to happen within the chapter before I started writing. Never have I gone this many chapters ahead, so I was really curious to see how this was going to work out. And I gotta say, even though it's way too early to really make any overall assumptions about how well this is going to go for me, it was actually really refreshing to sit down today at my keyboard and just look at my 1 or 2 bullet points that I had made for chapter 1 and just write it. Now, it still took me a while. Like I said earlier, I was there for about 2.5 hours to write about a 2,000 word chapter, but it was nice just to already have that blueprint in place that I was just kind of following along and filling in the gaps. So I'm definitely going to continue down my roadmap, I think, for the next 5 chapters, get to that point and then take some time and then look at what I've written, consider what needs to happen going forward, and then try to outline as many chapters ahead as I can at that point. But the thing that I know inevitably is going to happen is the whole, you've heard the phrase, the characters get a mind of their own, the characters do something unexpected. That is a real thing. It's just basically a way to say that while you're writing, a new idea pops into your head, a fresh idea, a fresh scenario, even a fresh line of dialogue that you weren't expecting pops into your head, you write it, and it can completely change the direction of a chapter, or maybe even the direction of the whole rest of the book. It's those surprising elements where you're accidentally unearthing your story as you're writing it that I think are some of the most fun parts of writing. And to be honest, if I'm surprising myself while I'm writing, the odds are I'm also going to surprise the reader when they get to that part in the book as well. Which makes me think that at the end of this, I don't really believe I'm going to be the type of writer that can sit down and just really methodically outline chapter by chapter by chapter the entire book and never deviate away from it. I think what's going to happen with me is I'm going to develop some sort of kind of mesh system where my flying by the seat of my pants, method kind of intermingles with the plotting out of chapters ahead. And they're going to do this really interesting, I think, dance together that could potentially result in a really, really fun and exciting new way for me to write that will allow me to express some of that creative freedom that I get by flying by the seat of my pants, but also give me just a little bit more structure as I write the book, which will hopefully make me more productive and allow me to write the book more quickly. I know there are extremists. There are some people, I think Jeffrey Deaver, I've heard him discuss his outlines before, and he will actually write outlines that are like hundreds of pages long, just each chapter by chapter by chapter, each beat laid out on the outline, and then when he sits down to write, he's literally just filling in the dialogue and the minuscule details. That is one extreme end of the spectrum. And then of course, my literary idol, Stephen King, has basically several times in interviews says that he makes the entire thing up as he goes. He does keep some notes for characters and such, kind of like I do, but it's all about unearthing and discovering the story for him as he writes it. And I really do think that what I'm trying to do is take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and mix them together and see if it's going to work for me. And right now, based on just the chapter 1 and the idea that I already know what is going to happen for the next 5 chapters, I'm going to be fairly optimistic about it. But of course, only time will tell. We'll see. I might get through these 6 chapters or get somewhere between chapter 1 and chapter 6 and go, nope, I'm making too many changes already. I already have this idea and this idea. Maybe it won't work for me. Maybe it will. I don't know, but I'm excited to try, and if it does, that's only going to be a good thing. And if it doesn't, that's okay too, because that just means I go back to writing the way that I used to, which, to be honest, has worked out pretty well so far. But I'm always looking for ways to improve and to get better and to be more efficient, and I think that should be the case for everybody. So that is it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that thumbs up button down below. It really does help me out. Subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more videos like this one in the future, and I will talk to you later. Bye.